Hello everyone, it is time for our weekly card reading, and as Mars stations direct this week, we have some fire to help encourage and support that transition. I've also got some wintergreen to prepare our muscles for that forward momentum that we've been waiting for, and some citrus bliss to kind of pick me up, lighten the emotional load, so to speak, and the mental load for that matter. We've got selenite and we've got two really lovely fiery stones. This is a beautiful jasper, and we've got some carnelian. And as I say, the biggest signature point of this week is that Mars stations direct on the 12th, on Thursday. So pick your number between 1 and 4 and let's dive into the reading. Mars has been retrograde since the 30th of October. He is the planet that retrogrades the least often, and he also hates to be in retrograde because his whole thing is forward momentum, and retrograde basically stops that. And this card reading for the week is perfect in light of that particular journey. So let's jump in. The big picture in the whole reading is thus: two major arcana cards, one court card, and a 7. And also we have all upright this week. So the first card is the Death card, and in this tarot deck, the Lightseers Tarot by Chris Ann Donnelly, she calls it the Death Rebirth card, which I love because that's really what death in the tarot is about. It's not that scary like, oh, I see the death card in the tarot, I'm going to die. It's not that at all. It's like something has to die. So in a sense, it's the death of this retrograde process. And some ways we could even look at Mars in a death cycle during retrograde, because he has to go backwards and reflect on the ways he wishes he'd done things differently. And for any of us who've done those experiences in our life, which probably is most of us, that's always hard. So first we have to let those ideas die, those ideals die. And I'm sure many of you can relate. It's oftentimes the idea, the dream of something that is hardest for us to let go of. But until we do, the rebirth is pretty tough. So we sort of start the week with this exceptionally transformative energy. And of course, half of this week, Mars is not direct yet. And in fact, he's at 8 degrees of Gemini, which is where he was all of last week and will be all of this week, and in fact into next week. So at one point of next week, which is when Mercury stations direct, Mercury and Mars will both be stationing at 8 degrees of their respective signs. That's Gemini for Mars and Capricorn for Mercury. Stationing at 8 degrees, and they will be at 8 degrees of their signs simultaneously. Now, these signs are kind of blind spots to one another, so it's a little bit, it's like Mercury's having this challenging rethinking experience, and Mars is having this challenging reworking how he gets things done experience, and they can't see each other. So it's like two people living in the same house, but going through their own challenging experiences and not really being able to communicate with each other about that. So there's actually kind of multiple death rebirth processes going on here. And the 7 of Pentacles, I feel like this week is a lot to remind us that even though Mars is going direct this week and Mercury next week, we need to just be slow off the starting blocks. Because if we just feel that Mercury direction change and we leap forward too quickly, we may forget to integrate the last of this lesson. 7 of Pentacles, the second card, is very much about slow and steady, taking that gratitude moment, pausing, sending love into the things that you want to take root in your life, sending love into the things that you want to grow, and being patient within that. So, of course, Mars is not terribly patient, and for that matter, neither is Mercury. So, this is a reminder to take these two rather fast and furious kind of planets and just be present, just be grateful, and allow things to unfold in the natural order of things. And then the third card is the Hermit, and that's another major arcana card. It's 9, and it takes us into this real self-reflection. So there's a lot of self-reflection, especially in these first three cards, a lot of seeking your inner light and listening to your body, listening to your intuition and observing. So retrogrades are, let me observe my thoughts. Let me observe my emotions, my situations, my reactions to those things. So don't think that just because Mercury stations direct this week, your work in reflection is done. The reminder here is that we need to kind of reflect throughout. We are almost like forced into those situations during retrogrades in a much stronger way, like gravitational pull kind of way, but we should actually be doing it all the time, taking those pause moments. When the planets are moving direct, we may not have to do it as intensively, but if we do our little daily check-ins, daily gratitude, daily check-in to how am I feeling, how am I thinking, how am I reacting, am I being very reactive or am I thinking before I take action around things? Do I know how I feel, what I think, what I value? So the Hermit is reminding us how important it is for us to stay in reflection because the world is changing in such big ways. If we don't do that, it will take us over. Those tidal waves will wash us away. And then the final card, the Queen of Wands, is such a joyful testament to that forward momentum that we're going to get, where we find that passion and joy, the creativity, the spark back in ourselves. And traditionally, the Queen of Wands is the more feminine energy. That's not about your gender. It's just yin and yang. And also it is a older energy. So the page and the knight are younger. The king and the queen are older. So for me, this signifies a maturation of you in your Mars aspect. And Mars is more yang. So it's like, how has this reflection balanced out your yin-yang energy, your masculine-feminine energy on some level, and helped you to integrate the two and grow up some aspects of yourself so that you still have that creative bounce, vim and vigor, but in a more mature way. And what I love about the wands is you never, and the element of fire really, is that you never have to act like a grown-up, so to speak, not like the old conventional idea of a grown-up. You don't have to be all serious all the time and grim and Saturnian. You can still be youthful and bouncy and silly and playful and be grown up. So how does that look for you? How do you feel you are in your Queen of Swords self, again, irrespective of your gender? So I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to coming back to you with another reading next week when we are saying goodbye to the Mercury retrograde. And then in that same week, next week, we have Uranus turn direct, and then we have almost 3 months of no retrograde planets. And I think it's only really at that point that that forward momentum of Mars having stationed direct this week is really going to get the revs up. So just take that extra time to prepare yourself for the forward momentum rather than rushing ahead without preparation. Sending much love and light out there.